Are y'all ready for some junky outdoor decor? Grab some of your favorite junk and get it pulled out. Let's make some pieces together that's unique and no one can just go and buy them in a store. This first project is a coffee can that my sister gave me as part of recycling. I'm adding 2 coats of chalk paint on here, and then we're going to add this gorgeous napkin. It has gorgeous peacocks on it, and it's a little dark and moody, but you know what? You can leave this out all year long. So I'm going to use some Mod Podge all over the can, and I'm just going to go for it and lay this napkin down. Now, you can do this however you want to, but I just lay the whole thing down and then use a plastic bag and kind of smooth it and wrap it all the way around. I didn't have any saran wrap right at my desk, but I had this plastic bag, so I just used it instead, using it to smooth. But there's a ton of wrinkles left in this, and you all, it looks so good. I can't wait for the next part of this. It was so much fun. We're gonna let this napkin dry, and we're gonna move on to this next step. I just wanted to say hey to everyone, and I am so excited to be back with this video. And I want to thank all my new subscribers who have loved junk just like we do, because they have subscribed to this channel. Now, all you guys that's been here from the beginning and everybody that comments all the time, I see you in the comments. I know you, I know your names, and I'm so happy when I get to talk to you. I make sure I reply to everybody. So let's get back into this. All right, so we're gonna be just smoothing this out as good as possible. Now I have some rips and some tears. I'm gonna show you all how I fix that. I don't want you to get too stressed out, but in the meantime, we're gonna start working on the bottom part of this. So I pulled out some of my beads, and my sister had gotten me a huge, well, a whole lot of stuff, plus a ton of jewelry was in it. So I'm just gonna take some of these beads apart. We're gonna be using them to strand together 6 strands for this wind chime, sun catcher, whatever you want to call it. And I'm just going to put beads on it that kind of match the napkin that we used on the can. Now, I don't show you all the stranding on video because I didn't want to bore you to death, but I'm just using this thread here that I picked up from a junk store. And now I've threaded them all together how I like, and I'm going to add a key to the bottom of each one to give some weight, and so they'll clang together and make a cool sound. I really wanted to use fishing line with this because I felt like it would be better for the outdoors, but this has some polyester in it, kind of plasticky, so I think this string will be fine. You may want to coat this whole thing with a good clear spray outdoor sealer if you're going to leave it on a porch for a while. I definitely won't have this uncovered out in the weather. This actually could be more of a piece for indoors too. So I just sanded off the extra part of that napkin. We're going to cover that hole a little later on. But for now, I'm going to sand that, and then we're going to take a little bit of paint and touch up those places that I tore putting it on. I'm rough on napkins, y'all. I'm just going to tell you. You're supposed to be pretty soft and gentle, and I get carried away. So I'm just going to take a little bit of black chalk paint and dab over all the little white spots showing through, and you really can't even tell that I painted over that because there's so much black in the background of this napkin. So I knew I had to take this is a broken top of a candelabra, and I had just kept it as a part, and this is a lid for a candle like that you burn. So I took those 2 pieces and thought they would make a perfect little top so that I can hang this, have kind of like a peaked up place at the top, and then put a little hook on it. So I'm just using some of that Fix-All Dollar Tree glue. It's kind of like E6000, a little bit of hot glue, and I'm placing both of these on there. Then we're going to use that black chalk paint and paint both of the pieces to match the black that's on the napkin. Now stay tuned to the end of this video. I have a big surprise for you all, and I can't wait to share it with you. To cover up the broken part of the candelabra and to have a place to put a little hook on the top, I just go ahead and put a couple coats of this black chalk paint on here. Now I had this little bell and it had a little loop on it, and I must have took it off for something else. Now I wished I hadn't have, but I'm just sitting here. I'm kind of getting tickled looking at all these pieces of, I don't know, recycling and parts that we're putting together. It's fun when I do it, but honestly, when I watch back on the video, I'm like, oh my gosh, look at all that stuff you're using. But you know what? I have fun doing it, and this really does turn out cool, and it's going to be solid. Like I said, if you want to, you can put a good sealer on this for outdoors. So once I get those pieces put together, then we have the top part of our wind chime. Don't that look cool? We will do something more to the top of that later. Right now I'm going to take my crocodile and punch holes straight through this, and then I'm going to tie each one of these strands of beads about 2 inches apart all the way around until I get them attached to complete the rest of this part. And I will show you shortly. I'm going to use something else to secure those beads at the top. Before we do that, I'm going to add this little hook, and I'm using some of that Dollar Tree Fix-All glue. Just going to stick that down in there. I'll paint this hook black a little bit later off camera. I'm going to let that dry. While that's drying, I'm going to go ahead and add some of this antique bronzing wax, just a little bit around these edges. I don't want it to be too bright like gold or anything, but I want it to be a little bit defined, kind of give that black, break up that black a little bit. I originally thought about painting the whole top of this yellow, and I'm so glad I didn't, which I think it definitely would have complemented the yellow in the colors of this napkin. To finish securing the strings at the top, I've not cut them off yet, I've just did the knots. I'm going to take these little kind of like moonstone gems and put some of this Fix-All glue and hot glue on the back, and I'm going to put them right over top of the strings and then cut the string off, and that way that is an extra security besides the 3 knots that I tied. Now I had one of those little hanging things from the Dollar Tree that had 3 circles on it, and I took one of them off and it fit perfectly underneath here, up in there. I didn't even have to glue it because it was so tight, and I painted it black so that it would finish this can off at the bottom. Let me know what you all think about this outdoor decor. Do you think it's something that you might make? This next project is a pretty simple one to begin with. Really it's just a little bit awkward because of the shape, but I took some of Fusion Slick Stick and put a good coat, or Ultra Grip bonding agent, and I put a good coat on there, and now I'm just going to sponge a coat of Kissing Booth all over this. It basically goes on pretty good on the first coat, and I have to kind of go back and just do over a little few spots to get this solid color, because we're going to do something kind of monochromatic with this, and I love how it turns out. Now this had a lot of scratches on it. It didn't have a lid, and I thought, you know what, we're going to turn this into a little planter. I know a lot of people worry about planters not having holes for drainage in the bottom, but I'm just going to tell you, I have a ton of plants that are in planters with no holes in the bottom, and they flourish fine. It really just depends on the atmosphere and how much you water them. So I don't really stress too much about planters that don't have holes on the bottom, just because I have plants that live without them. Now, what do y'all think about this color? It's quite bright for me, but I thought we would add a little color to our life. We started with that peacock, even though it had a black background. Now we're going to do some cool monochromatic stuff with this. So I've just gotten out one of my botanical IOD stamps, and I'm going to use white chalk paint to stamp these long-stemmed kind of wildflowers all over this thing, and I love how this turns out. Even though it is the hot pink or the fuchsia, whatever color you want to call it, I thought about mixing some paint and lightening it, but I thought, you know what, no, I really want that white to pop off of this color, and I need to leave it its own color to do that. So I'm just taking these stamps, holding them in place while I use my other hand to kind of go around and touch down on all of the parts of the stamp that I need to make contact with this plant holder. To tie in a little bit more of that white, I'm going to just go around the edges and on the inside, kind of giving a transitional white line in between the silver and the pink, and it really pays off. And I do put some dry brushing on the handle. You all have to let me know what you think about this one. The next project, keeping in with this bright monochromatic color and sort of a fun summer look, we're going to use this really vintage pan. Now I see that Dollar Tree has the sort of pop bottle or soda bottle can lids that kind of look like this and almost this size, so you could pick one of them up if you don't have one of these vintage ones. I am using DIY's paint in the color Water Lily, and we're going to stamp Blue Iris on top of this. These two make gorgeous colors off of each other and give that cool kind of monochromatic look. We're going to be using this wreath builder or maker stamp from IOD, and I'm just going to use one of the smaller pieces where you're doing the same process with rolling the paint on and just stamping straight onto the piece. Now with this one, I go ahead and kind of only stamp half of my stamp, and then I maneuver the stamp to get it even more rounder to make my wreath go all the way around, kind of in a more circular pattern than what the stamp is itself. And I did go ahead and clear coat this before I started stamping on it. I used my favorite chalked Rust-Oleum matte clear finish. I also clear coated the kissing booth planter that we made earlier. I forgot to tell you all that. As soon as I finished painting and let it dry, then I clear coated it before stamping. With this one, I was doing it very loosely. It was more of an artistic stamp. That's what you're going to get with paint versus a very crisp when you use ink, and I love the more artistic look, because to me it gives it more of an aged look or more of a vintage or just handmade look in general. For the center of this, we're going to use one of the IOD Birds and Bees stamp. I'm going to use this bird and just sort of perch him on this little wreath bottom. I go ahead and stamp him, and then I have to do another stamping because I didn't get it stamped all the way, but that's okay. That's the nice thing about using paint. It gives you that painterly look, and you can't really tell when you have to restamp something. Now we're not finished with this yet. We have a few more things I think you're going to love. We're going to go ahead and flip it over, and we're going to work on the bottom of this using another one of the IOD stamps. You all, I'm really trying to use my supplies. I hope you guys have noticed in the last few videos. And I'm just going to put a little stamp here in the middle. And once I get that finished, I kind of want to use something above and below the little bird. So I'm grabbing one of these stamps that has a bow and some floral on it. And I'm going to use the whole stamp on the bottom, but then I'm going to flip it around and use just a part of it on the top. After I get it on the top, I just stamp part of it, and then I go back and add a little end piece to make it look like a completed sort of swag up there above this bird. The reason I wanted to do this on the bottom is if this hangs up a little high, you'll be able to see the cool pattern on the bottom. Now this is going to be something you can put bird seed in and make a little bird feeder. And I know you didn't really need the pattern on the top. And if you're worried about chemicals, you can always use one of those silicone liners that are for air fryers to put the bird seed in to protect the pan and to protect the birds. We're just going to roll some of that paint on to tie it in all over the pan. Now remember, we had some of that jewelry, and I found this one that had 3 strands on the bottom, and what a perfect tri-strand to hang this bird feeder from. Now one of the strands doesn't have any beads on it, so I'm going to take the matching bracelet and just alter this to add some beads so that all 3 strands will look similar. Once I get them how I want them, then I'm actually going to hang this piece from my camera hook at the top and just show you kind of how this is going to look. I have punched holes in this with my crocodile, and now I'm taking these little circles that are kind of like key rings, and I have this little tool that opens key rings up and just sliding it into those holes, and this piece is finished. I have to say, I love how this turns out. I know these are brighter colors than we normally use, and the whole time I've been thinking, what would this look in dark and moody? I also added a few little things to each one of the strands of beads, like a bird wing or an angel wing, and then a couple little silver just filigree things just to give it an added touch. This next project is definitely 2 cool pieces that we're going to put together. I'm going to use this vintage Bunt pan and this urn and use this carriage house paint on it Let that dry, and now I'm gonna put these two pieces together. I need the holes in the center of these because I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna do with them. Now, once I go ahead and get that fix-all glue and a little bit of hot glue for that immediate hold, I let this dry, and I decide that this needs to be yellow. So I grab my liquid sunshine and I give it a couple good coats. Some of that green still shows through, but it works in my favor because we're going to be using some grunge glaze by Dixie Belle. It's one of those clearance pieces I got off my friend who was selling her stash, and this stuff looks so good on top of this, especially with some of that green showing in the background. So just take my paintbrush and sort of paint it on, kind of get it in the crevices a little bit, and then I've got a wet baby wipe that I'm just sort of smushing it a little bit and rubbing some of it back, but still making sure I have a decent coat so that you can see this is sort of an aged look over top of the yellow. I did think about distressing this back, but I decided against it. You guys have to let me know, should I have distressed this some? The reason I wanted that hole in the center was so that we could have one of these Dollar Tree lights, and it worked perfect. Look how cute that is with a plant in it. I love how this one turned out. Let me know what y'all think of this one. This next project is too easy. I'm just going to take this stand that's painted like a vintage gold. I'm going to add a little bit of rubber buff on some of the places that were pretty dinged up. I don't mind a little bit of the age showing, but there was some weird red coming through, and I definitely wanted to cover that up. Once I get the base covered a little bit with this gold, then we're just going to glue this to the bottom of this gorgeous teapot. You all, this thing has beautiful blue and green, and the handle is blue. I just couldn't paint it, and I don't want this to be permanent, so I'm just going to use some hot glue. It's funny though, the hot glue sticks immediately to this metal. As soon as I put it down, it was stuck. But the nice thing about it, if I want to alter this into something else, because I was thinking maybe later making a birdhouse out of it, this can be a gorgeous plant stand for just a little while, and I think it turned out so cute. And how easy was that? I also threw the light in there from the Dollar Tree just to show you how cute it could be, as well as a little light. Now, I had shown you all a few of my junk journals, and a lot of you said you wanted to see them, so I thought we would flip through two of these sort of ocean nautical themed junk journals. I made these quite a few years ago. This first one I made out of this book called The Sea, and I just altered the spine of it to make it larger. I'm just showing you all the cute little things on the side. And this is a little clip that came off of some luggage that had a starfish on it, even though the luggage was just black. So I kept that, and it worked perfect for this. Now I'm just showing you, there's a pocket here in the front, and that's a piece of scrap fabric that had that little ring already on it. And I made a little shaker out of some old little vintage covers that go on those slides. Now, this is out of a book. A lot of things are book pages that's in here, and I've done a lot of stamping. I've done a lot of jelly printing and a lot of painting throughout just to make it my own. I love doing mixed media. My friend gave me this vintage blueprint, and I used it because I thought it matched the theme. And I'm just going to flip through here a little bit for you all and show you there's lots of pockets, lots of artwork, envelopes filled with all kinds of stuff, little nooks and crannies. Now, junk journals are for people that want to normally write in them and use them to just write about their daily life, but they don't have to be. I make mine just more to look at, and I have sold plenty to people. I don't have as many as I've made because I've sold a lot of them, and I've sold them to people that want to write in them. Basically, you can either write on the blank spaces, you can write on top of the maps and all of the designs, or sometimes people will take like one of the pages and they'll paint some white paint on it and then write on top of that. They'll add a blank sheet on top of the artwork. That's what a junk journal can be used for. It definitely can be journaling, but it also can be like an art book. I love to add really old vintage items, so when I go back through, I can look at them, and it's kind of like I've saved them and collected them, but I've put them inside of a book that I can flip through and look at. There's lots of stamping, as you can see on these pages, lots of spraying with different colored inks, using stencils, old vintage maps, pages again out of books. There's library card pages, library Rolodex cards in here. There's music cards from old music machines, tickets. It's just so much fun to collect stuff to make these. Now this is what's called the center of a signature. Basically you sew all these signatures in with a large needle, and then you can either leave the strings and tie beads or something off of them, or you can hide the strings on the spine. I always choose to not hide mine and put something on the bottom. That's a cool little map that I folded up and made it be that way. Again, just more pages full of fun things. Very, very old receipts that I've collected. Honestly, collecting is half the fun. I love collecting things for themed, which this is a theme with the nautical, ocean, beachy look to it. I collected a lot of things to do some Poe journals. I've collected things to do a nurse journal. I've done just creepy journals, some Halloween journals, Christmas journals. And I used to love doing all this, and it takes, quite some time, but I really wanted to focus or refocus and have a YouTube channel that was something that more people could enjoy. There's definitely a large junk journaling or journaling community, but there's more of a DIY, home decor, altering items community, especially when it comes to YouTube and being successful. So that's why I changed speeds and I don't make junk journals anymore. I'm not saying I won't ever make another one, but for right now I'm focused on DIYing, home decor, altering items. That's what I'm enjoying for right now. And I think as an artist or even as a creator, we all go through stages of things that we love to make and change, and that's what keeps things interesting and creative for us. We're coming up on another signature, which has more little metal and beads hanging from it. You can have as many signatures in a journal as you want, which is basically kind of like, I call them maybe like chapters. And you can make the signatures different themed, but I just like to make my journals all the same theme. Or sometimes I'll have an eclectic one. It really just depends. But you can see there's definitely a lot of work in this. I just passed some old workbook papers. Here's some old music paper and more of that braille paper. The goal is really, when you're making these, is to have all kinds of different papers. See-through like vellum papers, papers that make a lot of noise, they're crinkly. People really like that in the junk journal world. This is a vintage postcard, a real vintage Victorian postcard, an old check. This next signature, I actually used the front of an Oceans book that had gorgeous images in it. A lot of the pages are in this book, but I just took the whole front and back and sewed on some clear plastic pockets and then stuck down some just cards in one of the pockets, but I didn't want to cover up the whole front of the book, so I just left that clear pocket empty on it. So I was in a thrift store in Ohio with my sister and mother. We were out junking and I found that certificate of achievement in an old frame, and it was from 1950s and I had to have it. Isn't that gorgeous? I thought the color went so well with this book. So I hope you have enjoyed this flip through. Maybe I will flip through some more coming up in future videos. Let me know if you enjoyed this, and thank you so much for watching this video, taking the time to stop by my channel. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't. If you don't know how, message me. I've helped several people that really don't know where the subscribe button is. I understand it's difficult depending on if you're on a TV, an iPad, a phone, or a laptop. So definitely, if you have any questions about that, message me in the comment section. And I'll see you real soon in the next video. Get ready, I'm kind of on a junk roll. See you real soon. Bye.